Welcome to this video. This is a video explaining to people who have never heard of the term theosophy. What is theosophy? So, theosophy refers to the wisdom of the gods because the word theosophy it can be divided into two parts, that is theos or divine and sophia or wisdom. So, wisdom of the gods or knowledge of the gods. That is, what do you mean by wisdom? Wisdom is that knowledge which you know to be true. So, you could say knowledge or wisdom of the gods. Now, let us start with some simple questions that you might ask yourself before you begin this journey into theosophy. What's your perception of God, for example? This is something each of you should ask yourself. Pause the video and think about it for a minute or half a minute on what you think is God. Think of the images that come to your mind. Think of things that you have heard about God and bring that to your mind. Then let's look at what is the purpose of your life. What do you think is the purpose of your life? Why are you even born? Okay, so what is the answer that comes to your mind? Think about that for a few minutes and a few moments, and then come back to this video. And then what do you think is death? So why do we die? What is the purpose of death, or what is death? So these are the questions that we are going to consider today while we are exploring what is theosophy. Now, what if you think about it? Why are we right? Why have you even come to this video? Why are you watching this? And why why do such questions bother us? Most of the time in our daily life, when everything is going well, what occupies our mind? Daily living issues, which is the largest circle shown here in this picture, like this skin color daily living issues. A little lesser is our major goals, duties and tasks that we have given ourselves, maybe to study something or to some project that we are doing, whatever the major tasks that we have given ourselves. And these three other questions that I had put before you, that is, what is God, what is the role of our life, and what is the meaning of death, is something. These type of questions bother us only when a major calamity happens and unexpected things happen. On a daily basis, we will never think. When things are doing well, we won't think of these things. But when unexpected things happen to us, like a major calamity, we start thinking of these things, and those other matters like our daily living things and our other goals take a back seat, whereas these questions seem to become more important to us. So, in answer to these questions, let's look at what theosophy talks about. Theosophy's first answer to what is God is that is one underlying, unconditional, indivisible truth, variously called the absolute, the unknown root, or the one reality. It is causeless and timeless and therefore unknowable and undescribable. It is the beingness rather than being. However, transient states of matter and consciousness are manifested in it in an unfolding gradation from the subtlest to the densest, the final of which is the physical plane. According to this view, manifest existence is a change of condition and therefore neither the result of creation nor a random event. Now let's look at this. This is one of the first propositions which theosophy makes, is that God is not one being or some defined entity or a defined thing or a person. It's something which we can never understand. It is more of the quality of beingness rather than being. What is the quality of being? That quality of being, that is beingness, like we would say goodness or badness. So the quality of goodness and badness is there in that is the beingness, the very quality of quality itself in that. So that is what is God. And it is forever there. It is timeless, it has no cause, and it is existent even before existence, and it continues to exist after existence. So it is forever there. And it does not come into being at creation, and there is no question of creation. So that is God. That entity is God. And this is the answer that theosophy gives. So the next question, what is the purpose of life? Why are we even born? Theosophy's answer is that the fundamental identity of all souls with the universal oversoul and the obligatory pilgrimage of every soul, a spark of the former, through the cycle of incarnation in accordance with cyclic and karmic law during the whole term. The individual souls are seen as units of consciousness that are intrinsic parts of a universal oversoul, just as different sparks are part of a fire. These individual souls undergo a process of evolution where consciousness unfolds and matter develops. So, what is this saying is that the purpose of our life is that we are all souls and we are all part of that divine entity which we call God, and that universal oversoul, and we have an obligatory pilgrimage for this spark which is our individual soul, through cycles of reincarnation and karmic law, to eventually go to that god, or to become part of that god again. So the individual souls are seen as units of consciousness that are intrinsic part of the universal oversoul. We are part of that how oversoul. For example, the cells in our body cannot say I am only Vimal. Each cell is not cannot jump and say I am Vimal, I am Vimal. All of this is me. Okay. Similarly, we are all part of the divine self, so we don't feel it, because each of us is like, I'm different, I'm different, I'm different. How can I all of us be the same? We're not the same, we're all different, but we are still part of that divine self, and we are like individual sparks. Eventually we have to keep on taking birth over and over again until we become one with that divinity. So that is the process of evolution which takes place in us. That is the answer. The purpose of life is evolution. We are born to evolve into that higher self. And let's look at what is death. Theosophy's answer to what is death is that death is just the other side of life, the absolute universality of that law of periodicity, or of flux and reflux, ebb and flow, life and death. Everything happens in cycles, and death is part of the cycle of life. But the immortal spark will continue to take many future births until someday, eons in the future, it will realize itself as the God himself and thus end his journey. So basically, what is death is just another part of life. We are born and we have to die. We have the cycle that is there in this whole cosmos. Cycles are constant. They just like we are living and dying. The solar system will live and die one day, and so will the entire cosmos will die. Our galaxy will live and die. Similarly, everything has a period of life, and then it dies, and then it's born again, and each time it's born, it takes a continuity from its previous birth. So when I die, though Vimal Palachandra will die, something of me will survive, and maybe the quality, the desire, the interest, and the abilities, those things will survive, and they will come back in another form, in another totally unrecognizable form, unconnected form to me, at least in the externals. In the internals, there will be connection. So that is the meaning of death. Death is just another part of life. This is what Theosophy says. So to answer those three fundamental questions, what is God? Is just a principle. It's something we can never know, but we are sparks of that God. And who are we? What is the purpose of our life? We are sparks of that God, and eventually we have to realize that God within us become that, and then our pilgrimage is over. Finally, what is death is just another part of life, and it's going to happen to all of us. We have to accept it. Aren't we happy when a baby is born in the house? Similarly, when somebody dies, he is born in another realm. He has the opportunity for a future birth. That is how you have to always look at life and death. Never be unhappy with death, because death is not the end of life at all. Most of our unhappiness seems to come from outside. Unwanted circumstances, failures, and negative people. Rarely do we accept ownership of our unhappiness due to our own doing. This is because we do a lot of things and don't realize that there are consequences to each thing we do. In fact, we live without knowing that there are some laws of living. This is like trying to row a boat without knowing the rules of rowing. See, basically at this point, like what I'm trying to tell now is this point is that what is really theosophy? What is the philosophy of theosophy? what is it really trying to teach us? So it comes from this thing that we think that whatever's in our life, the happiness in our life, the circumstances in our life are because of other people. We don't take ownership of what is wrong in our life. And that is because we think that we are living a life without even knowing that there are some laws of living. We don't accept that there are any laws. We think the laws made by our country are our laws, but that is not enough. That is also there to be followed, but there are some laws made by this very nature which we have to follow. It's like, if you're trying to row a boat and we don't know the rules of rowing, will we be able to move forward? If one didn't know the basic rule of rowing, that we have to push the water back, push the water back, okay, then we move forward. So you push the water back in that force that pushes the boat forward. That is a rule. Now if we didn't know how to use the oars and we did not understand that simple principle that one has to push the water back, and the push the water back pushes the boat forward and we move forward, we will never be able to understand. So that law helps us to move, make the boat move. Similarly, if we understand what are the laws of our life, we will be able to make our lives both move forward. So let us look at what these laws are. So the first one law that we must understand is the law of karma. It's the law of cause and effect. We have heard about this. We sow as we reap. And on a moment to moment basis, we create a karma. We not only create a karma with our actions and speech, we also create a karma with our thoughts. Now, what are the karma of thoughts? For example, if we create positive and good thoughts around us, clairvoyantly, people can see that these thoughts have got beautiful shapes and colors. So, positive thinking, good thinking, if we think constantly good things in a day, we start a day, this day is going to be good. I mean, there are so many ways you can give yourself positive thoughts and say positive things to yourself. You will be energized. You will feel the energy of your own thoughts because you people that positive energy, and you are, you know, of you have people that atmosphere with with little intelligent beings of positive thoughts. Similarly, if you have negative thoughts, just see, these are the kinds of negative energies that you have. Their colors are dark, they are ugly to look at. And if you people all your surrounding with such negative thoughts, don't you think you will be affected by your own negative thoughts? So this is what is karma of your own thoughts. You can see the thought energy directly acting as karma for yourself, or even on a daily basis. So thoughts, this is how thoughts are also karmic. And that's how, let's look at it, that if we create good karma, if you want to create good karma of thoughts, we want a positive energy around us and in our lives, we have to positively and like determinately create this positive energy. So karma of actions and speech are pretty obvious to us, but what is not clear is that how come some problems we are facing don't seem to be deserved by us. And here we need to understand another law, which is the law of the necessity of reincarnation. We think of ourselves as one unit instead of thinking of our life as one garment worn by the soul to be discarded at death and take on a new garment as another person, but in the same soul. Hence, whatever karmic energy, good or bad, we will keep taking births until we balance all of it. See, we have many births, and each birth is like just one dress that we wear. This body is a dress that our soul wears, and at the end of it, it's going to get old, it's going to get torn and tattered and faded. Eventually it is going to be of no use to us, and that's when the soul discards it and moves to another birth. So this is what we need to understand. And if we get attached to our this one body, and or we get attached to somebody's one body, we are forgetting one important thing, that is just a garment that they are wearing on that day, and we are wearing another garment on this day, and it's a coincidence that we both are seeing each other in each other's garments. So if we know this for sure in our mind, that karma is a fact and reincarnation is a fact. See, the thing is, our biggest problem today is, thanks to science and thanks to the fact that all of us are now grown with science in our studies. We as Indians, for whom karma and reincarnation were facts 100 years ago, are no longer facts. We don't accept that as facts. We think that science is yet to prove, that science has to tell us that karma is correct or reincarnation exists. Until then, we will not accept it. But 100 years ago, on all these centuries, when India had such a high civilization, these were known facts to us, but we've given it all away. And we replaced it with modern plumbing, as I would say. So basically, just for modern plumbing and electricity and whatever modern life has to offer for us, we've given up the wisdom, the soul's wisdom of our past. And that is what are these two laws, the laws of karma and reincarnation, which form one of some of the fundamental things of what theosophy talks about. And what do we do? How do we deal with the karma of of the present? In order to create no new bad karma, the best way is to cheerfully face our present karma and work positively with energy and goodwill. While one can intellectually grasp karma and reincarnation, the absence of an all-loving, compassionate God makes one feel kind of lost and lonely. Faith in God gives one comfort. I think about that part because a person might be willing to accept karma and reincarnation, but those who love a particular deity would find it hard to give up that deity because that deity, thinking of the deity, the love that comes in our heart, and the kind of peace that we get when we think about the deity, we think that we are this a special child of the deity. Our heart goes up in love to the deity, and somehow we feel that the deity will come and calms us down. Even if they don't solve our problem, just belief in that deity gives us gives us comfort. How can one live without that comfort? In theosophy, one says that there is no God. Like the first one, is it really there is no God? All there is something which we don't understand, which is not God as such as we think of it as God. One never needs to feel alone because if one understands theosophy, the journey of the soul of our soul, one will realize one thing, that just like we progressing, there are people who have progressed in already in the past to much higher levels. So they don't even have to be born to be able to function. They are able to function in the mental planes, in higher realms, and these are superhuman beings who have continued, instead of going and merging into the divine, into the God, and through nirvana finishing their life, they continue to remain in a realm where they are able to help us. So they are all there, those higher selves, these higher beings who are not gods, but they are as close as they can be to that God. Their sole aim is our evolution, and they will never abandon even one person while all we have to do is to live by the laws and keep going. So they are there for us. They guide us in different ways. They guide us through thoughts. They guide us through helping us understand something. They guide us in many ways, but not in the direct way that tumko aaj ye mil jayega, whatever you have wanted you will get immediately. No, that is not the way they help us. They help us by helping us to face our problems better, to evolve better. The best way I can evolve, if I am a person who likes to regularly steal, the best way I can evolve is to understand that stealing is wrong. I will not be helped if I'm given the perfect circumstance to be continue to keep on stealing, because that's not a way that can actually is is not sustainable, because sometime or the other somebody will catch me and put me behind bars. It's not a sustainable thing for me to continue to want what I want, because continue to be the way I am. Many things in me has to change for my own improvement. So that is what a more evolved, like a teacher in a classroom. A teacher knows what's best for the child. A child might be stuck at a certain level of ability. The teacher will go on correcting until he has been able to pull up the child to a better level. So a teacher teaches to improve you. A teacher who says you are good enough, you're perfect as you are, is not going to teach you anything. A teacher is a teacher who can teach you to become better than what you are. So that is how these higher beings are always there for us. So if we open ourselves to their help is there available for us. So we must never feel that there is nobody out there. So that is one thing. So this is, in conclusion, theosophy is not very different from the religions of the world, nor are its moral teachings very different. Do good, be good, help people, honesty, truthfulness. All are the moral teachings of all religions. The only major difference is it puts the entire responsibility of our lives on us. You are responsible for whatever is in your life. So, this is my brief introduction to Theosophy, and I hope this makes sense to you and you enjoy this. Thank you. Bye.